What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. This is UFC London Best Bet. We have Tom Aspinall going against Curtis Blaydes.
I need all the wins, yeah. Harder than all that is. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out.
And we are back for another Best Bet upload here. I just want to remind you guys, next week for UFC 277, we are going to do the live version 2 hours before the prelims. Make sure you guys tune in to that live version for 277 next week. Amanda Nunes, Juliana Pena, also Brandon Moreno, Kaikar, France. But another upload here, and as always on Best Bet, there are only 2 rules. Those 2 rules being we have to bet on every fight to say the best bet on every single fight. The other rule is we're going to use current lines as well. So going to give the best fight, the best bet, just one for each and every fight on this UFC London card. It's a stacked card, 14 fights, just fire from top to bottom. I have a ton of action on this card, the second most action ever for me since I've started tracking 3 or so years ago. So hopefully it's a good night, but I say we get into it. Before we get started, if you guys can please leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and I say we get right into it here. So we have the first fight of the night, Claudio Silva going against Nicholas Dalby. And I actually have a bet on 11 out of 14 fights. This is one of the fights where I don't have a bet on it, but I was kind of looking at that over 2.5 rounds, minus 155. I do think it'll be a little sweaty early on. Claudio Silva, the dude's 39 years old. He's almost turning 40 at this point. And at this point of his career, it's pretty much sub 1 or bust. I think if you do like Claudio Silva, you'll probably take that sub 1. This is a fight that I'm not too interested in. I've never really been high on Dalby, and I was actually really high on Silva. He was coming into a couple fights with a 14-fight win streak. He is on a 2-fight skid. He is getting up there in age. I question his cardio. I said this does go over 2.5 and probably to decision, but I do worry about Claudio Silva getting Nicholas Dalby down early, and I also have a little bit of concern about Claudio Silva maybe gassing out late. That's kind of why I like the over 2.5 a little bit more than that fight goes, just in case Dalby does get a late finish there. But, Claudio Silva's tough as they come, never been knocked out, obviously never been submitted. Nicholas Dalby never been knocked out in his career as well. I think the over 2.5 is the bet I would take a look at. You see it minus 155 here on Bet Online. I see a minus 140 out there on Caesars, minus 152 on FanDuel. Give me that over 2.5 to kick off the night. Oh boy, here it comes. Next, we have Mandy Baum going against Victoria Leonardo. And I said I was retiring from betting these fights. I did come out of retirement to bet on this fight. Do I feel great about it? Absolutely not. But the line just made no sense to me, I feel like stylistically Victoria Leonardo has a really good chance to win this fight if she comes in here with the right game plan. I do expect her to. I feel like if she can get on top, she's going to have a good chance to win minutes on the mat and potentially even finish as well. I did bet Leonardo at plus 125. I'll say that right off the bat for full transparency here. At this point, my best bet would still be Victoria Leonardo here at plus 100. Do I love it? No. Do I feel great about it? Absolutely not. Feel real icky about this bet, but I feel like Leonardo should be the favorite. She's fought the much better competition. It's not even close. Losses to Fioro and Gatto, and I think people are really down on her, but I'm really down on Mandy Baum. I think Leonardo has all the tools to win this fight, but plus 100, I wouldn't really play her anywhere, minus 110. If you still get plus money, I would take a look at that, but I just can't see any other way to play this fight. I think the fight could finish inside the distance, but I'm not entirely confident in that. I think the best bet for this fight is still Victoria Leonardo at dog money there. All right, next we have an absolute banger, one of my favorite prelim fights. We have Jai Herbert going against Kyle Nelson, and the best bet for this fight is going to be that fight doesn't go to decision, minus 250. I think that's bettable. I do have a big bet on that myself. Both these guys, I believe they have 8 combined UFC fights, all 8 of them finishing inside the distance. Both guys are great finishers. Jai Herbert, a 91% finish rate. Kyle Nelson, a ton of power in his hands. Kyle Nelson, pretty much round 1 knockout or bust in my opinion. This guy throws everything into all of his shots, and we see time and time again, if he does not get that first round knockout, he does slow down as the fight goes on. I think Kyle Nelson has a great chance to knock out Jai Herbert, who has terrible striking defense, a terrible chin, has been finished in all 4 losses, been knocked out 3 times. I think Kyle Nelson is really live to knock out Jai Herbert here, but if this fight does get extended, I heavily favor Herbert, and I think Herbert eventually puts him away, and I think Herbert can even knock him out in the first round as well. So instead of messing around with a side, which, by the way, the Herbert money line's nuts, give me that fight, doesn't go to decision, minus 250. I think that is a very good look there. All right, moving on, we have Charles Johnson going against Muhammad Mokaev. Obviously Mokaev is a huge favorite here, minus 500. I see minus 575, and I do think this fight's going to play out closer than the line does indicate. But my best bet for this fight is actually going to be the fight goes to decision, sitting here on FanDuel Sportsbook at plus 132. The reason being is, Mokaev went out there and he finished third in the first round. I think everybody is seeing that, and that's why we're getting a 125-pound fight with a fight doesn't go decision line around minus 170, which it doesn't make a ton of sense to me. Like, Mokaev has won a ton of decisions before. You take a look at his amateur career, I think he has like 15 decision wins, something crazy like that. I feel like this is a close fight. I feel like, a lot of people are taking the shot on Charles Johnson. I'm not picking Charles Johnson to win, nothing like that, but I do think the line is kind of whack here. But instead of taking the shot on Charles Johnson, because I do think he loses, I think the fight goes to decision is an even better look. It is plus money, plus 132. Charles Johnson, never been knocked out, never been submitted. This guy's very tough on the feet, and he was able to survive a lot of grappling exchanges with a guy like Brandon Royval a couple of years back. So I think he gets this and drags this out, goes to decision. Plus 132 would be my best bet. Obviously, the ceremony weigh-ins was not a good look because it looks like they want to kill each other, but I think the fight goes here more often than not. All right, next we have Jonathan Pierce going against McCann and Amirkhani, and this one's a tough one to give a best bet on because there's so many different ways to play this fight, I think. If you like Pierce, I like Pierce inside the distance, round 2 and round 3. If you like McCann, I like McCann sub. I like McCann sub 1. But I think I'm just going to go with the under 2.5 rounds here, sitting at minus 120 on Caesar Sportsbook. I think that's a really good look. I think it's McCann, Amirkhani first round, or Jonathan Pierce rounds 2 and rounds 3. I think somebody does get finished here. McCann is going to be very alive for that sub. Jonathan Pierce puts himself into a ton of bad spots. And then on the flip side, if this fight does get out of the first round, Jonathan Pierce is going to turn it on. Jonathan Pierce, phenomenal cardio. McCann, really bad cardio. I think Jonathan Pierce eventually finishes McCann if he is able to survive that first round on the mat. So the best bet for this fight will be the under 2.5 rounds. If you do want to hedge out on that extra 2.5 minutes, you could also throw like a sprinkle of Jonathan Pierce by round 3. But I think the under 2.5 will be my best bet in this fight. All right, next we have Charles Rosa going against Nathaniel Wood. A tough one to give a best bet on. Not a tough fight for me to pick, though. I really like Nathaniel Wood to win this fight. It's just, does he win it by knockout? Does he win it by decision? I think submission is completely off the table. It's impossible to submit Charles Rosa, but I don't know. Wood by knockout, plus 350. I'm kind of leaning more towards Wood by decision at minus 130 here. I think I'll go with that for my best bet, but I just like Wood as a whole here. I like Wood to win. Charles Rosa only been knocked out once in the third round against Shane Burgos, and even then he wasn't like completely out. Wood, 0 knockouts in the UFC for what it's worth. He has 3 submissions. I don't see him submitting Charles Rosa. I think the Wood by decision would be the route I would take at this point if I was to bet on this fight right now. Minus 130, Wood by decision. It improves that minus 600 price tag by a mile, and I think that is his most likely path to victory. So give me Nathaniel Wood by decision there for my best bet. All right, next we have, it should be Mark Diakiese here, and we don't have a ton of props out, which is weird. It's a big card, and it's a Friday, but still don't have a ton of props out. My best bet's going to be the Mark Diakiese money line, though. I'll keep it simple. I like him as a parlay piece. I think, you could argue it's wide, I guess, but if he comes out here with the right game plan, it's not going to look wide at all. He's going to look like a massive favorite. I think it's pretty simple. Come out here with the same game plan he had in his last fight against Silva. Take this guy down to the mat. Hadzovic, 34% takedown defense. Can absolutely be taken down, can absolutely gas out. I think Diakiese wins this fight more often than not, especially if he comes in here with the right game plan, and I do expect him to. If he comes in here with a crap game plan and wants to stand and strike with Hadzovic for 3 rounds, I still favor him, but he would not look like a minus 400 at that point, but you got to believe he comes out here and he wrestles, and he does pay off that price tag. So just give me the Mark Diakiese money line. Keep it simple there. All right, next we have Klein going against Mason Jones, the featured prelim here. And, Yeah, I like Mason Jones a lot as well, and I'm going to take Mason Jones to win inside the distance for my best bet here, and minus 130. See a plus 100. I don't know what happened with DraftKings. They did have lines out on this fight, but they completely took all the lines off for the Jones Klein fight. So not sure what's going on there, but they did have plus 110 for that Jones inside the distance. So maybe they'll bring it back on if they do. If DraftKings have plus 110, I like that. Some other books have plus money as well. I like Mason Jones to win inside the distance here. He's a big favorite, minus 400. This guy is a good finisher. He's a black belt in BJJ, lots of power. Leavitt Klein has been finished in 3 of his 4 losses, 2 by submission, 1 by knockout. And Klein, we know he's very dangerous early, but he does slow down as the fight goes on. I'm kind of leading Mason Jones a second or third round finish there. Round plus money. Give me Jones inside the distance here as my best bet. All right, next we have the first fight on the main card. We have Paul Craig going against Volkan Oezdemir. I'm going to keep it simple here as well. Give me the fight doesn't go to decision. Minus 300. I think it's a parlay piece. I think it's playable straight. You know, Paul Craig fights typically end in violence. He has a 100% finish rate for and a 100% finish rate against. He's been to decision once in like 23 fights, and that was against a 40-year-old Shogun. So I think all the stats line up, the finish stats line up. Paul Craig's been finishing all of his losses, 3 by knockout. And then on top of that, stylistically, I think this lines up for a good violent spot. Either Oezdemir is going to go in here and knock out Craig in the very first round, or Paul Craig is going to drag this down to the mat, get knocked down, get something off his back, and he's going to submit Volkan Oezdemir. I really don't see it playing out any other way. If this fight does go to decision, it's probably Oezdemir winning it. I would be shocked if Paul Craig won a decision, but I think the fight doesn't go to decision, hits more often than not, and it's not like you're paying a crazy minus 750, minus 900 like we've been seeing in the past a couple months. Some of these fights where they line the fight doesn't go at like minus 700 for no reason. I think this is a fight where you could potentially line it at minus 600, minus 700, and I'd say that makes sense. It's a Paul Craig fight. So I still think at minus 300, there is a lot of value on this fight. I think it should be closer to minus 400 at the very least. All right, Hannah Goldy going against Molly McCann. Yeah, best bet, I don't know, because Molly McCann is a decisionator. She has finished like 50% of her wins by finish, or even less than that it could be. Not really a finisher, but man, she's going to come out here looking for the finish. She said she's going to finish. I think the crowd's going to be behind her. A Molly finish would not completely shock me. The only problem is with a Molly finish here, you're not getting any value on it. Molly McCann to win inside the distance, only plus 235, plus 245. Like, I think there's no value in that. Could she finish? Potentially, but I would need at least like plus 600 to count on Molly McCann to go out here and finish. I think this fight does go to decision more often than not. Hannah Goldy is very tough, and I do think this fight is going to be more competitive than that line does indicate. So since I'm not getting enough on that McCann inside the distance, I'm going to take McCann by decision. I think that is the most likely path here for Molly McCann. It's minus 130. You're definitely improving that minus 400 price tag, which is just nuts. But if this fight does go to decision, I'd be completely shocked if Molly McCann did not get it. So give me Molly McCann to win. Molly McCann to win by decision for my best bet on this fight. Next, we have Alexander Gustafsson going against Nikita Krylov, and I'm going to take the under 2.5 rounds for my best bet here. Krylov is a killer-be-killed fighter. He has a ton of fights. Forget the exact amount, but he has a lot. I think he's only been to decision like 3 times. He has like a 96, 97% finish rate. He's been finished in, I think, like all but 1 or 2 of his losses. So this guy, Krylov, is a killer-be-killed fighter. I think he's very live to finish Gustafsson if this fight does hit the mat, and if Gustafsson is checked out and not showing up here. But if we get the best version of Gustafsson, I think this is a very winnable matchup for him. And again, we have seen Krylov finish like 7 times. So I think the under 2.5 rounds covers both sides here. I think it's Krylov early. Gustafsson could be late as well. But I would take the under 2.5, and I'd kind of stay away from those money lines here on a sketchy fight. All right, next we have Jordan Leavitt going against Paddy Pimblett. Yeah, I like Paddy here quite a bit. I know people are taking the shot on Jordan Leavitt and trying to fade Paddy. I don't think this is the spot. I think Paddy Pimblett is better pretty much everywhere. Paddy Pimblett's going to have the better striking by a mile. I think he's going to have the better cardio. I think the grappling is going to be competitive. I feel like who could ever get on top first is going to have success. So maybe Leavitt comes out here and wins the first round via top control, but I don't like Leavitt's gas tank. I've seen him slow down multiple times as the fight goes on, and Paddy's going to set a pace where I just don't think Jordan's going to keep up. if this fight does get extended. But I kind of think Paddy's live to finish him early. I think Paddy's live to finish him early. I think Paddy's live to finish him late. I think Paddy's live to finish in general. So I know the over is a really popular play and the fight goes is a really popular play. I don't know. I just don't see it. I think Paddy wins inside the distance more often than not. If he does win, I like Pimblett inside the distance, and you can get it around -120, -140, -135. I saw another book had it like -110 earlier in the week. I'm not sure if it's there, but I like Paddy Pimblett to win and win inside the distance for my best bet. Next, we have Jack Hermansson going against Chris Curtis. A straight pick 'em here. Yeah, I don't like anything on this fight. Kind of surprised that more money has not come in on Chris Curtis. Definitely a fan favorite and has been cashing a lot lately. I don't know. If I had to pick one thing here, I think it would be the over 2.5 rounds, -115. It's kind of terrifying, but Jack Hermansson's only been knocked out by Jared Cannonier, and I want to say off the top of my head, maybe Thiago Santos, somebody like that. I mean, he's been knocked out by two very hard hitters. Other than that, his chin is definitely held up. I think Chris Curtis wins the fight, and I think he wins by decision. If Jack Hermansson does get this fight down to the mat, there definitely could be some problems, but we saw Chris Curtis's takedown defense in his last fight against Vieira and even his entire UFC run. I think he's like stuffed 24 out of 24 takedowns. So give me the over 2.5. Probably going to be sweaty, but I do think this fight does go to decision. Maybe Curtis can catch him. Maybe Jack can get on top. I just don't really like either of those scenarios there. So I like the fight goes. I like the over 2.5. Give me the over 2.5 at -115 there. And then the main event, Tom Aspinall going against Curtis Blaydes. And I'm all in on violence this week. I think it's a very violent card, and I'm not messing around with this money line. You could argue it's disrespectful to Curtis Blaydes, and I could agree. But I'm a true believer in Tom Aspinall. I think he's going to fight for the title in the very near future here. It's a tough matchup, the toughest matchup he's had by a mile. There will be questions answered potentially, or we just get a Tom Aspinall first round finish, which I'm kind of leaning that way. I don't think we get any questions answered, but we definitely will if this fight does get extended. I don't want anything to do with this fight from a money line standpoint. I like violence here. I like the fight doesn't go to decision. I like the under 3.5, and that's what I'm actually going to give out here. I'm going to give the under 3.5 rounds, -175. I think even like the under 2.5 at -125 is not terrible. Tom Aspinall's never been over 2.5. He's never been even to the third round. What is a fight won't start round 4 or fight won't start round 3? It's plus money, plus 100. Like he's never seen the third round, but I do like the under 3.5 a little bit better in that spot. Under 4.5, -265. Fight doesn't go -260 there on FanDuel. I think those are all playable. I do think we see some violence in this main event, and I'm definitely not touching it from a money line perspective. I just don't have any confidence in really either side here. So that's my best bet. And those are my best bets for the entire UFC London card. I want to remind you guys, next week, 277 will be live 2 hours prior to the prelims. We'll go for about an hour and a half with me and my 3 other guests, and then I'll spend the last 30 minutes with you guys answering any questions and just chatting it up for the last 30 minutes there. So 2 hour special for the pay-per-view, and that will be the kind of the thing going forward. So leave a like on your way out, subscribe to the channel, let me know your best bet for the entire card, and best of luck for UFC London. Let us make some money on Saturday. See you guys.